Hello and welcome to The Nation. You're joining me, Elaine Noor Abdullah, in today's session discussing the topic Jendela, the national preparation towards 5G. Now, in August, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin announced that Jendela, the Jalinan Digital Negara Action Plan, which is part of the 12th Malaysia Plan 2021 to 2025, would lay the foundation for a comprehensive and high-quality broadband coverage, as well as prepare the country for the transition towards 5G technology. Now, COVID-19 induced Movement Control Order MCO in March 2020, and it left businesses throughout the nation reeling with only a few crucial ones allowed to operate, and virtually brought economic activities to a standstill. So the year saw emerging trends such as work from home, while Malaysia and the world at large, shackled by the pandemic and movement restrictions, transitioned to a new normal, which catapulted household demand for internet services. Now, under Jendela's first phase from 2020 to 2022, Malaysia has targeted to expand 4G mobile broadband coverage, to increase mobile broadband speeds, and to enable premises to access fixed broadband services at gigabit speeds, and to completely switch off 3G networks by the end of 2021 to allow the improvement to 4G networks and strengthen the foundation for 5G. Now, in the first quarterly report for Jendela released recently, the report card looks promising. Now, you're probably wondering, how is this information relevant to me? To shed more light and to help us understand this initiative further, in the studio with me, I have the privilege of speaking to the chairman of MCMC Yang Berusaha, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik. Hello and welcome to The Nation, Dr. Fadlullah. Thank you for joining us in The Nation. Now, it has been nearly 4 months since Jendela was announced by the government. As we usher into a brand new year, what can Malaysians expect from Jendela in terms of its status and focus in the coming year 2021?
Hi, thanks, Elaine. I think when Prime Minister announced Jendela, it was meant to have a runway of 5 years.
Right.
Okay, so we've hit the ground running in 2020. The report card is out there. So we've got our targets for 2021, which will probably see a more aggressive target being rolled out. Say, for example, if last year we did, or rather, I've just moved into the next year. For 2020, we've targeted to the tune of about 352,000 premises passed. Okay, right. But next year that's going to be 4 times that, so that's 1.2 million. That's a lot of work. Okay, and so there'll be a lot more aggressive work being done so that people could actually access such services. But as in all infrastructure work, it's not something that can happen overnight. Okay, it will take time, and we will continue to drive the industry, okay, and together facilitate the industry to make sure that the delivery of that infrastructure is being done as per target. Okay,
now it looks like you guys have your work cut out for you. I mean, the industry, as well as monitoring, guiding, ensuring that we're hitting the milestones that we are required to hit in order for us to see that deadline. Now, meanwhile, the mission to make telecommunications a third utility. Now, this is a big aim. Third utility is now in full swing. What are the latest developments or advances regarding this initiative?
Making the telecommunications a third utility is not a very new or novel idea. Okay, it was an idea that would have had people talking about it many years back. But the fact that COVID-19 happened, that kind of like shook people up. Okay, and said, "Hey, wait a minute. Telecommunications is so important now, okay? Just as one would have water and electricity." So where we are today, we've gone down to the ground, met up with all the respective chief ministers and Menteri Besars, telling them the importance of it. And I'm glad to report that as of today, Penang has announced that it has made it a policy for them, and the local authorities of Penang would actually adopt the processes that puts the telecommunications as a third utility. So too has Kedah, Melaka and Johor that had made their announcement, but they have not gone as far as Penang. But I'm sure they're just quite behind a little bit, and then we'll continue to push and cajole the rest of the states, okay, to also make it happen. And once all 14 states actually do that, then at least us as end users would know that the moment we move into a new house, electricity will be there, water will be there, telecommunications we were there.
Now, this would be a big achievement, and a lot of people may not understand this, that this is no small feat, because it's not a one-size-fits-all that you can just, have a sweeping sort of announcement and then it happens automatically. People will wonder, like, why does it take time? Why only them first? And perhaps you can explain that a little bit.
Now, the way in Malaysia is, we are governed under the federal constitution. So with the federal constitution, you actually have then the state laws.
Yes.
Okay, so when you talk about state laws, anything in relation to land, okay, in relation to business permits and stuff like that, would be governed by the local laws.
Right.
And therefore, each state is governed probably slightly differently, although within the same mold, but pretty much slightly differently. Therefore, when you go down from a federal guideline or federal statement, for it to be adopted, there are processes. So you need to make sure that the state exco approves it, okay, as a policy. Then it gets gazetted, and thereof it becomes a requirement for the respective local authorities to then undertake. Now, all that has a process. All that are governed by the remits of the legal requirements of a state. So hence it takes time. It takes time.
Now, to what extent will the cooperation with the state governments and local authorities, or what we know as PBT, be able to help ensure that efforts to make telecommunications as a third utility a reality?
A lot will depend on the openness to understand, okay, and this is where communication is going to be really, really critical.
Wouldn't it be very obvious that it's a necessity by this time?
Well, sometimes people say the obvious is never obvious. Okay. So hence you need to do that communications with them. Okay? And like I said, because of COVID-19, as much as we said, oh no, we have got COVID-19, to some extent we said, oh, thank God we had COVID-19.
Yes.
Because people then said, wait a minute, I need this now.
There's always a silver lining behind everything.
Silver lining in everything, right? So hence, this is where we think this is probably about the right time, okay, for us to then embark on this. And we've seen some traction, and because the states are now competing against each other, so we said, oh, when we go to state A, we'll say, look, state B has got it, When are you guys going to do it, okay? Then we
competition.
When you go down to the next state, say, hey, the other two guys are quite close to the finishing line. So in a way, it's just our own little way of convincing them. And thank God, today many of them are not turning us away, okay, and they're actually doing a lot of work to make that happen. Right,
thank you so much. Now we'll take a short breather. When we come back, we'll start talking about what's next, what are the challenges, and what can we do in order for us to be able to create and facilitate this process. We'll take a short breather. When we come back, we have more stories. Shall we stay tuned? We'll be right back. Hello, thanks for staying with us on The Nation. You're still with me, Elaine Abdullah, and in the studio I'm speaking to, of course, Dr. Fadlullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, Chairman of the MCMC, and we're talking about Jendela, the National Preparation Towards 5G. Now, Dr. Fadlullah, we had a little bit of an overview of what Jendela is, what's its agenda, and we talked about the requirement for states to be on board in order for us to be able to reach this goal. Now, what are some of the challenges when trying to embark on this exercise? Perhaps you can share with us.
Imagine now you go to a state, you need to lay fibre, or you need to erect a tower. Okay, for that you will actually have to deal with land-related matters. So you've got to cover the land office to give you approval for you to use the land in the manner that you want to use. So the category of the land is and recategorization of the land is a process.
I see.
Second, the size of the land that allows you to do the newly categorized activity is another process.
Wow.
Okay, so these are all land laws that we as a country have, and hence these are the little challenges that we have. Okay, now once you overcome the land matters that could take you months, and sometimes up to a year. Then you go to the local authority. Well, then they have another set of rules that you need to conform to. So imagine when you go down to the state, there are many, many departments that you've got to get approvals. Okay? And because of that, you have a lot of if you want to say, hurdles along the way that will then cause a very long delay in executing it. Now, we flip it around and say, hey, what if it's a utility? It's a pre-requirement for everything.
Right.
So everything is kind of like ingredients already. You just bring the chef, and the chef then cooks.
Right.
Okay, as opposed to you tell that you want to have this particular meal, and then the chef has got to go to the market and buy the stuff and come back to cook. So obviously the preparation time will be a lot more, is a lot less if everything is already in place.
Right.
And hence that's the reason why we are pushing for the policy as a third utility.
Now, time is money, and of course that would equate to being able to expedite the process if we can make this a reality.
Absolutely.
Now, I have also read that there's also other kinds of hurdles, and it could come from even locals in terms of people, and there are certain times that the authorities may not be as open or willing if the local population is not as open to it. So what are some of the hurdles that have been encountered in this kind of situations?
I think today, because of social media, we have a lot of access to information. Right information, wrong information, grey information. Okay, and usually it's always a case of the new towers, okay, for mobile infrastructure, where people are always worried about electronic magnetic fields, or EMF for short. Okay, they said, "Oh, I'm going to, I may be exposed to this. I'll get cancer.
I don't want to be living near it.
I don't want to live.
My value will go down.
Yes, my land value will go down.
Yes.
But I want my service in my house.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so but never in my backyard. Okay, so hence this is where the challenge is. Little do they realize that the microwave that you have in the house emits a higher level of EMF than the tower that's there 24/7.
Right.
Okay, so you go figure out which one could cause cancer.
It's a perception thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So we continue to engage, continue to create awareness. Okay, get also other agencies to come on board to continue. But as you know, behavioral change is not something that happens overnight. It needs to go on continuously. And this is something that we find that the local authorities, because again by the bylaw, they need to abide to the approval of the resident.
Right.
So all it takes is just one guy saying, I disagree. Wow. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
The local authority says, no way are we going to give you an approval.
Right.
Okay, until they have a problem, they say, why can't I make a phone call from home? Okay, then this whole process starts yet again.
You can't have your cake and eat it too if you don't want to be able to do the work to make it, essentially.
And hence, by putting it as a policy, before you move into a new area, you know that there will, at a certain part of the area, that will be where the tower will be erected. And you can't say no to that. So just like if you move to a new taman, and suddenly your nice house that has got a lovely view, say 6 years down the road, an apartment comes up. I said, I didn't approve this. You look at your developmental plan. Oh yeah, I didn't realize there is an apartment that's coming up.
There's a lot of things that people didn't realize that they think that it's their right when it's not. So I think on our part, we're trying to assist with debunking those myths and for people to understand what is within their purview and what's not.
Absolutely.
Now next, how will the efforts undertaken by the government be able to improve the quality of experience of customers?
I think the quality of experience comes with quality of life.
Right.
Okay, imagine now if you could do something without having to leave your home. You don't have to turn on your car, carbon footprint goes down. You don't have to drive your car, you don't have to spend money. Okay, and of course you don't have to go through the jams. Therefore, again, time. There's the cost of time.
Yes.
So your quality of life changes.
Right.
Now, but for quality of life to change, you need to make sure that the surrounding or the ecosystem allows you to have that higher quality of life.
Right.
Okay, and this is where communications come in, and in this case, internet. So when we say internet, how will that change you, or what are you going? What do you expect? You want to have this quality of experience, and the easiest way I can say for quality of experience is that I take my phone, I turn it on, I can make a call. I don't have to wait. For the call, to search for a signal and stuff. Okay, number one. Or I want to watch a nice little movie.
Streaming.
Okay, streaming. And when I press on the application,
I don't want to see the buffer line.
white donut. Okay, I call it a white donut. Okay,
right.
So you don't want to see the white donut.
Yes.
So if I can get that, then as a consumer, I say, hey, my quality of experience is great. See, because the moment I go to this place, I press my application, bang, I get what I want to see. Or I press for this information, bang, I get the information near instantaneously. Right? So that's a kind of quality of experience that we are pushing for. But as in all technology, how you use the technology is so key. Because you certainly can't take a small car down to Sepang and think you can overtake Lewis Hamilton in his Formula 1 car. So obviously you need to choose, both are cars, but certainly each has a different set of technologies, right? So likewise in communications, you have different types of technologies, and we are trying to educate people to say, for this technology, this is what you have to do. For this technology, this is what you can do with it. Okay, because one can substitute the other.
There's a price to pay for, the larger experience that we want to be able to experience. Now, Doctor, we will take another short breather right now. When we come back, we'll talk about this real-world benefits and how you can be part of this revolution. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello, thanks for staying with us on The Nation. You're still with me, Elaine Nabla, in the studio, and speaking to Dr. Fadlullah, and he's the chairman of MCMC. We're talking about the topic of Jendela. If you're wondering what Jendela is of course the digital network that we're looking to expand so that you and I can have a better experience at home. Now, Dr. Fadlullah, I think a lot of us didn't realize how dependent we were on internet, and hence the push towards making this a third utility for the future to enable the ease of creating that infrastructure. Now, of course, people were wondering, how will I be able to experience this in a real-world situation? I can safely say that because I've had to be working from home since the start of the COVID pandemic, I've been frustrated so much from being at home because a lot of times the infrastructure is ready for offices but not for home. So what can we see in real-world benefits when we're at home?
Now, in real benefits, what will happen is that because of Jendela, we are actually getting the network planners to replan the network. Okay, if before people plan the network to cater for traffic within a given area. Okay, but because of COVID-19, we suddenly saw a shift of traffic, movement, and therefore, with Jendela, you'll have closer to uniform capacity layout. Okay, which means irrespective whether you are in town, okay, or you're within suburban or to the rural, the network would be close to equivocal.
So we're spreading it out evenly.
We're spreading it out evenly, okay. So therefore your experience, whether you are downtown Bangsa or probably somewhere in Pahang, you'll still have the same experience. Okay, so that's the intention of Jendela. Now that's a huge task, actually, because even today, people will say, "Hey, I still have problems in town."
Yes,
I absolutely agree.
Correct.
Okay, and that is the very reason why we need to fix it. Okay, we're not saying or defending, saying, look, it is a problem, and we need to fix it. Okay, and hence this is what we're doing today.
I mean, it showcased in terms of the priority, in terms of our investment in the past, to ready ourselves for this, section in life, in history, because I don't think anybody, nobody globally was prepared for this. And despite, I think, a lot of advice in the past to be able to ready ourselves for the future, I think we've taken it with a bit of a lackadaisical attitude, thinking that, I will have time to do it when I have the budget and capital to invest in it. Now, even if you don't, you're forced to. Otherwise, you're out of the game. So, hence, the need for us to transition right now. The digital gap will still exist, I believe. And what is the measure, or what is the timeline for us to be able to sort of narrow that gap?
Well, at the end of the day, I think we'll just need to have some realistic targets. Okay, in life, like in all statistics, there's always a binomial distribution. What it means is that there's always someone who will be on this side of the of the curve, and there'll be someone on the other side of the curve. What you try to do is that you try to move everybody to the right side of the curve as much as possible, but you will always have the tail end. Okay, so what we're doing is that we're trying to do that. How fast can that happen? Now, on our part of MCMC, we can ensure that the infrastructure is ready, but we are not there to get the soft side, i.e. the people, to come on board. See, because they will have different priorities in life. Okay, they say, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, but I want this. Okay, so what we can do is that within the sphere that we are able to assist, we're trying to make that happen, to make sure that the curve is skewed to the right. Okay, and we've set ourselves a target to do that over a period of 5 years. Okay, now hopefully that is on the basis of assumption that technology movement is within the assumption that we use for the first 5 years.
Right.
Okay, so that's what we'll get. And what will you get as an end user is that you will be able to do things at a greater speed. You can have a higher productivity, and hopefully for those who are entrepreneurial, you will also be able to do business, one-man show, but earning maybe 50 to 70K
from anywhere.
From anywhere you are.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the sunsetting of the 3G network by end of 2021. Why is that important?
Okay. Resources is always limited. For mobile, we need spectrum. Okay? And God has made it that spectrum is only limited this much, but no matter where you are.
Right.
Okay? And because for you to be able to use the spectrum, you need to make sure that spectrum is not used for something else. And therefore, by shutting down 3G, it allows you to refarm that for 4G. And therefore, with the higher spectrum of 4G, you and I as users will have a higher level of experience.
Now, how would that impact the user?
Now, for the user, for most people, many have actually acquired the 4G handphone. There will always be a small segment of the society that may still continue to use 3G devices. And this is where the industry is creating attractive packages to facilitate people to transit over. Even the budget 2021, there was an announcement with regards to the package Prihatin, where it allows people of B40 to be provided with a subsidy of 180 ringgit to help them also use that for them to acquire a new device, 4G device. So hence the government is helping to some extent, but people need to own a device because they need to have the skins in the game.
They need to plan as well.
They too need to plan. Okay, we can provide some incentives, some subsidy, but at the end of the day, you can, bring a horse to the trial, but it's still the horse who needs to drink the water.
That's right. Now, in our last question, in conclusion, looking at the efforts taken by the government in strengthening digital connectivity, how will this help Malaysia's readiness to move into the 5G era? I mean, that's a huge vision.
Huge thing. Right? Everybody talks about 5G. Okay, but 5G, before you get to 5G, you need to make sure that a lot of the elements would be okay. I'll give you an analogy. You want to be a sprinter. You want to be as fast as Usain Bolt. But you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to run and I'm going to run. And
you need to train.
You need to train, right? So therefore, you need to train. And in training, you watch your diet, you watch this, you watch that. So likewise for infrastructure, you need to make sure fiber is being rolled out. Okay, towers are available. Okay, and then you can put the equipment on the tower. And to do that, this is what we're doing. Okay, and the faster we do this, the faster that we can adopt 5G. And we're lucky that the first quarter report has been positive. That had allowed us to also expedite the efforts to roll out 5G. So we can kind of like accelerate it, okay, and hope that we could actually have a sense and a feel of what 5G is on a commercial basis, probably in 2022.
Oh my goodness, that would be quite the vision. Thank you so much, Dr. Fadullah. That's all the time that we have to talk about Jendela, and we're looking forward to the future. Now, we were, of course, in conversation with Chairman of the MTMC, Yang Berusaha, Dr. Fadullah Suhaimi Abdul Malik, speaking to us about the topic of the national preparation towards 5G Jendela. Now, with all stakeholders on board, the agenda to upgrade and drastically improve the national digital network, as well as understanding and subscribing to the responsibility towards the larger vision, we will be poised to leapfrog into the future. Now, without that shared accountability, we will be severely handicapped. Now, let's work together to create that window into the future. Thanks for watching The Nation. With me, Elaine Abdullah. Bye for now.